4 minutes. That's all it took for me to drag a dying federal agent back from a wound that should have killed him twice over, on a mountain trail 40 miles from the nearest ambulance. I've been a park ranger at Ashford National Park for 6 years. Quiet, competent, good with a first aid kit. That's all anybody here ever needed me to be. By the time the bleeding finally stopped, I'd used a technique that doesn't exist in any civilian training manual, in front of exactly the wrong witness. The FBI didn't send me a medal. They sent an agent named Marsh, a folder full of inconsistencies about a life I'd spent 9 years building, and one question that mattered more than all the others. Where did you learn that? Ashford isn't a park most people have heard of, which is exactly why I picked it. 200,000 acres of granite ridgelines and switchback trails. 4 ranger stations and a search and rescue team of 6 people who mostly spend their summers hauling dehydrated tourists off the wrong side of a scenic overlook. I've worked here 6 years, ever since I finished my EMT recertification and told the hiring committee I wanted somewhere quiet. They gave me the northernmost station, the one nobody else wanted, 40 minutes by truck from the nearest paved road. And I have never once regretted it. My cabin has no cell signal past the porch. My nearest neighbour is a fire lookout 11 miles east. Most days, my biggest emergency is a twisted ankle or a case of heat exhaustion. And I like it that way. Because for 9 years before this, emergency meant something considerably worse. I don't talk about those 9 years. As far as the Park Service knows, I did federal contract work before this, which is vague enough to be technically true and specific enough that nobody asks a second question. My co-workers know I'm good in a crisis. Unnaturally good, one of them likes to joke. And they've decided, the way people decide these things, that it's just my personality. Calm under pressure. A steady hand. It isn't personality. It's 9 years of training that doesn't switch off just because you want it to. The radio call came in a little after 2 on a Thursday in September. The kind of clear, cold afternoon that brings out every hiker in 3 counties. Ashford dispatch to Unit 4. I picked up the radio off my belt without breaking stride toward the truck, already half guessing it was another twisted ankle on the Ridgeline Trail. Unit 4, go ahead. We've got a report of a hiker down, mile marker 9, Ridgeline Trail. Caller says he's unresponsive, heavy bleeding, possible fall. Possible fall was doing a lot of work in that sentence. Most falls on that stretch of trail happen on the switchbacks near the overlook, not mile 9, which is flat, wooded, and about as far from a cliff edge as you can get anywhere in this park. Copy, ETA 15 minutes, I said, and started driving faster than the fire road technically allows. 15 minutes felt like an hour. I ran through the standard mental checklist the whole way. Blunt trauma, likely fracture, monitor for shock. The kind of preparation that would have been exactly right for an actual fall. Some part of me, the part I keep buried under 6 years of quiet, had already started preparing for something else the second dispatch said, heavy bleeding, instead of possible fracture. Falls don't usually bleed like that. I found him off the trail, maybe 20 feet into the tree line, which was the first thing wrong with the whole scene. People who fall on the trail. People who end up 20 feet into dense brush usually got there because somebody put them there. He was maybe 40, dressed like a hiker, but built like something else entirely. The kind of lean, deliberate muscle that doesn't come from a gym membership. A wound low on his left side had soaked through his jacket and was still spreading when I got to him. And one look told me the story dispatch had given me was wrong in every way that mattered. This wasn't a fall injury. This was a gunshot wound. Close range, dressed up afterward to look like something else. His pulse was thready, his skin grey, his breathing shallow and fast, in the specific rhythm that means a body running out of blood to spare on breathing. I had maybe 3 minutes before he crossed a line that no amount of skill brings a person back from, and the nearest hospital was a 40-minute flight by helicopter that hadn't even been called yet. I stopped being a park ranger somewhere in that first 10 seconds. I didn't decide to. My hands just already knew what to do before the rest of me caught up. I tore his jacket open, found the wound, a through and through just above the iliac crest, tearing exactly the kind of vessel that kills people quietly and fast. And did the thing I hadn't done in 9 years, and somehow hadn't lost a single degree of. I packed the wound, found the bleeder by feel because there wasn't time to find it any other way, and pinned it against bone with 2 fingers while I built, in about 90 seconds, an improvised internal pressure seal that field medics in my old life called the Ridgeline Protocol for exactly one reason. It was designed for situations exactly like this one. Massive hemorrhage, 0 surgical support, help that's still an hour away. It is not something they teach in EMT recertification courses. It is not something a civilian park ranger has any earthly reason to know. His pulse came back thin, then steadier, over about 90 of the longest seconds of my professional life. His eyes opened for half a second, unfocused, and he said 4 words before he went under again. "They found me. Sorry." I called in the helicopter with my hands still buried in his side, and I did not have time right then to think about what those 4 words meant, or about the fact that I'd just performed a maneuver that would be very, very hard to explain to anyone who happened to be watching. The helicopter took him at 2:51. By 4, I was back at my station filling out an incident report I already knew wasn't going to satisfy anybody. And by 6, a black government SUV was parked outside my cabin that had definitely not driven 40 minutes of fire road without a very specific reason. The man who got out introduced himself as Agent Marsh, FBI, and didn't bother with small talk. He had a laptop bag over one shoulder and the particular walk of a man who'd already decided how this conversation was going to go before he knocked on my door. "Ranger Bennett," he said. "Mind if I come in?" I let him in. There wasn't really a version of this where I didn't. He set his laptop on my kitchen table and didn't sit down right away. He looked around my cabin first. The topo maps on the wall, the single photo I keep of a mountain range I've never told anyone the real name of, the 2 mugs by the sink, even though I live alone, filing all of it away the way people do when cataloguing a life is literally their job. "The man you saved today," he said finally, sitting across from me, "is a federal asset. He's alive right now because of a field technique the surgeons at Riverbend Medical had never seen before." One of them looked it up. "It doesn't exist in any public trauma literature." "I'm good under pressure," I said. "Comes with the job." Marsh smiled, but it didn't reach anywhere close to his eyes. "I've read your park service file, Ranger Bennett. Cole Bennett, 34, EMT, certified 9 years ago. Contract medical work before this." He opened the laptop, turned it toward me. "Your EMT instructor from that certification course retired to Ecuador 4 years ago and doesn't return calls. Your listed emergency contact's phone number was disconnected in 2019. And this," he tapped the screen, "is your Park Service background check photo compared against a facial recognition match from a database I'm not supposed to have access to." I looked at the screen. I already knew what was on it before I looked. The photo on the left was my current Park Service badge photo. The photo on the right was grainier, older, taken from what looked like a drone or a long-range surveillance camera. A man in unmarked tactical gear, kneeling over a wounded soldier in a rocky, sun-baked ravine, hands buried in the man's chest, doing something that looked exactly, unmistakably, like what I'd just done on that trail. That photo is 6 years old, Marsh said quietly. It's time-stamped from an extraction gone wrong in a mountain border region I'm not going to name out loud in your kitchen. The operator in that photo is listed in a classified file under the call sign Warden. Warden was killed in that extraction, according to the official record. Confirmed dead, case closed 6 years ago. He looked up at me. You want to explain to me how a dead man is currently drinking my coffee? I sat with that for a long moment, the same particular stillness I'd learned a long time ago for exactly this kind of situation. The kind where the next thing you say determines everything that happens after it. They were wrong, I said finally. Marsh's eyebrows went up just slightly. About which part? Both parts, I said, and felt something in my chest that had been locked down for 6 years come loose all at once. I wasn't killed in that ravine, and I made sure the record said I was, because the people who leaked our extraction coordinates to whoever hit us that day were never going to stop looking for me if they thought I was still alive to talk about it. Marsh closed the laptop slowly. Who leaked the coordinates? I don't know, I said. That's the part that's kept me up more nights than the ambush itself. Somebody with access to our operational security sold us out, and I've spent 6 years assuming I'd never get close enough to find out who. He studied me for a long moment, the kind of look that measures a person all the way down. What if I told you, he said slowly, that the man you just saved on that trail was 3 weeks away from testifying about exactly that kind of leak? A private contractor selling classified deployment data to the highest bidder. I felt something cold settle low in my stomach. The specific, old kind of cold that used to mean I was about to lose people I cared about. His name is Foster, Marsh said. Federal witness, flipped 18 months ago on a private military contractor called Halcyon Group. They've spent 3 decades doing exactly what your file says happened to your unit. Buying classified operational data and selling it to whoever pays best. Foster was their logistics coordinator until his conscience caught up with him. We've been moving him through a chain of safe locations for 4 months. Ashford was supposed to be the quietest link in that chain. Somebody knew he was here, I said. Somebody's known where he's been for 4 months, Marsh said grimly. We've lost 2 other assets the same way in the last year. We think Halcyon has someone inside the protection program itself. I thought about the 2 men who'd apparently followed Foster 20 feet off a hiking trail to shoot him and stage it as a fall, patient and professional enough to almost get away with it in 200,000 acres of wilderness. They'll try again, I said, once they know he survived. That's the assumption, Marsh agreed. Which is the other reason I'm here. He leaned forward. Your file says Warden's specialty wasn't just trauma medicine. It says tracking, wilderness infiltration, counter-surveillance. I've got a federal witness in a hospital bed and a shooter, or shooters, still loose in your backyard, in terrain your own team can't safely search. And you are, as far as I can tell, the single most qualified person within 400 miles to find them before they finish what they started. I retired from that life, I said, for a reason. I know, Marsh said. I read the reason. Your team leader, Halverson according to the file, didn't make it out of that ravine. You did, because you walked 40 miles through mountains most soldiers wouldn't survive, on a leg wound of your own, rather than trust an extraction that never came. He closed the folder. I'm not asking you to go back to being warden permanently, Ranger Bennett. I'm asking for a few days. Whoever's still out there in your park right now is the closest anyone's gotten to Halcyon in 3 decades of looking. If they get away clean, Foster's testimony dies with whatever they take with them, and the next asset Halcyon burns won't have a park ranger nearby who happens to know how to keep them alive. I looked out my kitchen window at the tree line, dark now, the ridge beyond it barely visible against a sky just starting to bruise purple at the edges. 6 years of quiet mornings, topo maps, and nobody needing anything more complicated from me than directions to the Falls Trail. And all of it was sitting right next to 9 years I'd spent trying very hard to stop being useful for exactly this kind of request. If I do this, I said, it stays off every record that exists. No file, no call sign, nothing that puts Warden back in a database anywhere. Done, Marsh said, without even pretending to negotiate, which told me how badly he needed this to work. And when it's over, I go back to being a park ranger, permanently. Nobody comes looking for a second favor. Done, he said again. Then I need a topo map of every drainage within 6 miles of mile marker 9, and I need to know exactly what Foster was carrying when they hit him. Marsh almost smiled. There it is. What Foster had been carrying was a data drive, physically on him, containing 18 months of financial records he'd copied before he flipped. Proof of exactly which defense officials Halcyon had bought, and exactly which operations they'd sold out to make room for their own contracts. It hadn't been on him when the Medivac team found him. Whoever shot him had taken it and vanished into 200,000 acres of granite and pine before local search and rescue even finished securing the scene. 200,000 acres sounds like an impossible search area to anyone who hasn't spent 9 years learning how professionals actually move through terrain like this. Professionals don't wander. They pick lines of least resistance, they avoid ridgelines that silhouette them against the sky, and they always head toward the fastest route back to a vehicle. I didn't need to search 200,000 acres. I needed to search exactly one drainage, the one that connected mile marker 9 to the nearest fire road in under 3 miles of hikeable terrain, because that's the route I would have picked. And men like this pick the same lines I would. I found their first sign 40 minutes after dark, a single disturbed patch of moss on a boulder, the kind of mark that means a boot came down slightly wrong under a heavy pack, invisible to anyone who hasn't spent years learning to read a forest floor like a sentence. Then a broken fern stem, still weeping sap, maybe 20 minutes old. Then, a quarter mile further, the particular smell of a cigarette smoked in a hurry and stubbed out under a boot rather than field stripped, which told me something even more useful than the trail itself. These men were tired. Tired men get careless, and careless men, in country like this, get found. I found them a little after 10, camped in a shallow rock overhang above a drainage. No fire, red lens flashlights only, which meant they knew enough tradecraft to avoid the obvious mistakes, and not quite enough to realize red light is just as visible as white to anyone who knows exactly what they're looking for in the dark. 2 men. One kept watch while the other slept in shifts, which told me they were expecting exactly the kind of pursuit they were currently receiving, just not this fast, and definitely not from this direction. I radioed Marsh their position from a ridge a half-mile out, keeping my voice below a whisper the way you learn to when sound carries differently across open rock at night. Local sheriff's tactical team is 40 minutes out, Marsh said quietly through my earpiece. Can you hold position and just maintain eyes until they arrive? I could have. That would have been the reasonable, retired park ranger answer. Then the watchman shifted, reached into a pack, and pulled out a satellite phone. And I understood immediately what 40 minutes actually meant. 40 minutes was enough time for a phone call, an extraction, and a data drive gone forever into whatever black market halcyon group had built over 3 decades of getting away with exactly this. Negative, I said quietly. They're about to make a call that ends this the wrong way. I'm moving in. Bennett. I was already moving, down through the drainage, using the sound of the creek to cover my approach, the same way I'd used running water to cover 100 approaches in my old life, in country considerably less forgiving than this one. The watchman heard me maybe 2 seconds before it mattered, which in this kind of terrain, at this kind of range, is not enough time to matter at all. I closed the distance before he'd fully turned, took the satellite phone out of his hand before his brain had finished processing that someone else was standing there, and put him into the rock face behind him with exactly enough force to end the conversation and not 1 ounce more. The second man came up fast, weapon already half raised, years of instinct working in his favour, and 9 years of considerably more specific instinct working against him. I closed that gap too before he'd finished the motion, took the weapon out of the equation the way you take a stick away from someone swinging it wrong, and had him face down against the rock with his own zip ties before either of them had made more than a single sound loud enough to carry. The whole thing took maybe 11 seconds. It felt, the way these things always used to, like considerably longer and considerably less time all at once. I found the drive in the first man's jacket pocket, a small, unremarkable piece of plastic that 18 months of one man's conscience and an entire federal case against Halcyon Group had apparently been riding on. I radioed Marsh with a location, a description of both men, zip-tied and thoroughly uninterested in causing further trouble, and the 6 words he'd apparently been hoping to hear all night. Got the drive, both men secure. The silence on the other end lasted just long enough that I understood, even through a radio, exactly how much had been riding on this going the way it just had. The sheriff's tactical team arrived 20 minutes later to find 2 zip-tied mercenaries and a park ranger sitting on a rock, drinking water from his own canteen like it was any other Thursday night shift. Marsh showed up an hour after that, climbing out of breath up the last quarter mile of trail, and looked at the scene for a long moment before he said anything at all. "You were supposed to hold position," he said. "They had a satellite phone," I said. 40 minutes was too long. He didn't argue with that, mostly because there wasn't really an argument to have. He took the drive from me carefully, like it weighed considerably more than the few ounces it actually did, and looked at me with an expression I couldn't entirely read in the dark. "Foster's stable," he said. "Surgeons say he'll make a full recovery, mostly thanks to whatever you did on that trail. And thanks to this drive, we're looking at charges against 6 defense officials and the complete collapse of Halcyon Group's contractor status by the end of the month." "Good," I said, and meant it, in the specific, quiet way I've learned to mean things since I stopped needing to prove I meant them loudly. "Your file," Marsh said. "The one with your real name on it. The one that says, 'Warden died 6 years ago in a ravine that got you here.'" He held up a second drive, smaller, unmarked. "I've got exactly 1 copy of the update that would say otherwise. As far as any system that matters is concerned, it's not getting made. He dropped it onto the rock beside me and, without another word, crushed it under his boot. I went back to my station 3 days later, once the FBI had finished the last of their questions and the sheriff's department had finished pretending they fully understood what had happened out on that ridge. My cabin looked exactly the way I'd left it. Topo maps on the wall, 2 mugs by the sink, the single unlabeled photo of a mountain range I've still never told anyone the real name of. Foster sent a note through Marsh a few weeks later. 4 lines, no return address, thanking a park ranger he'd apparently decided not to ask too many follow-up questions about. I keep it folded into my kitchen drawer, next to a spare radio battery and a box of matches, which is about as much ceremony as I generally allow myself these days. Sometimes, on quiet mornings, I still catch myself counting exits in a room or noticing the specific way somebody's eyes move when they're not telling the whole truth. 9 years of training like that never fully retires, even after 6 years of trying to convince it otherwise. But most days, out here, it doesn't have anywhere in particular to go. Most days, the biggest emergency at Ashford is still just a twisted ankle on the Ridgeline Trail. And I like it that way, exactly as much as I did before any of this happened. I never did become anything other than what I already was. I became something Ashford National Park never quite realised it had. A ranger who remembers exactly how much can be riding on a quiet Thursday afternoon. If you've ever underestimated somebody who seemed too calm for the situation they were in, tell me about it in the comments. I read every one. And if this story kept you here until the end, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.